When I was 16, my folks took me camping. Then they just left me there in the woods. I was walking back to our spot with an armful of logs for the fire when I heard my dad, Frank. If he wants to live, he'll figure it out. An hour later, I watched their car disappear down the dirt road, not even a glance back. I was lost and starving for days before some hikers found me. I didn't see my family again until last month, 6 years later. My mom, Mary, showed up at my job, just a mess of tears. So, this is a long story, and I wasn't even sure I'd share it, but here it is. I've told a few people I know, and they either didn't believe me or just got weird about it. So maybe strangers online will get it more. This happened when I was 16, so 6 years ago. I'm 22 now. I wasn't some crazy kid or anything, just a regular annoying teenager. My dad, Frank, was always that guy who thought being tough was the only thing that mattered. He'd call me soft if I didn't want to play sports with a broken bone, or whatever. My mom, Mary, she just went along with him. My little sister, Sarah, she was maybe 12, didn't really care about anything but her phone. The weird stuff started before we even left for the trip. Frank kept making these comments, like, "Time for you to learn how to be a man," stuff like that. He'd said it before, but this time it felt meaner. At breakfast, he looked at me and said, "Hope you're ready to get out of your comfort zone." I just rolled my eyes, you know? That's his thing. Mary barely said a word, just kept packing snacks in those little cereal boxes. We drove maybe 2 hours out to some state forest. Not a fancy campsite, just a basic spot with a fire pit, a couple of picnic tables, and one of those smelly outhouses. The drive was mostly silent, except for Sarah's phone playing those dumb short videos. I tried to talk, but Frank just stared at the road, and Mary was doing a puzzle on her phone. I remember thinking it was way more awkward than usual. So we get there, unload, set up the tent, all that. Frank was extra bossy about how I wasn't helping enough, even though I was carrying the heavy cooler. He just kept muttering about when he was a kid and whatever. I ignored it. When we finally got a fire going, Sarah was on her phone, Mary was reading, Frank was just staring at me like he was waiting for me to screw up. Just a creepy vibe. Next morning, Frank wakes me up early, says we need more firewood, shoves this old, rusty hatchet at me, and tells me to go past the trail, find some real wood, not the stuff near the site. I was half asleep, but whatever, I went. I was gone maybe 40 minutes. No phone service out there. Just wandering around, looking for dry branches. When I finally came back, I heard voices and stopped behind some trees. Not on purpose, just because I heard my name. I heard Frank, and he was saying, "If he wants to live, he'll figure it out." And Mary's voice, but she was quiet, saying, "Are you sure this is the right way?" And Frank goes, "This is how my old man did it to me. He'll thank us one day." Sarah said something, but I couldn't hear her, just her flat, bored voice. I just stood there, frozen, like, is this a joke? I stepped out, and they all looked at me like they'd been caught doing something bad. Mary looked away. Frank just shrugged. Sarah wouldn't even look at me. I dropped the firewood and asked what was going on. And Frank just goes, "You'll be fine. You're a man now. Figure it out." And then he started packing up the tent. At first, I thought he was bluffing, like maybe this was some messed up parenting thing. So I tried to grab my bag, but Frank shoved me back. Not hard, but enough to make his point. Mary tried to say something, but Frank snapped at her, told her to get in the car. I just stood there while they packed up. Sarah threw my sweater at me and said nothing. Mary tried to hand me an old granola bar, but Frank yelled for her to get in the car now. She dropped it on the ground. I picked up the granola bar. Frank slammed the trunk. I told him, "You can't just leave me here." And he goes, "You'll understand when you're older." Then he got in the car. Mary was crying. Sarah had her earbuds in, and they just drove off. I stood there for a long time, thinking they'd come back. This had to be a joke. But they didn't. I tried calling them, but I'd left my charger in the car, and my phone was almost dead. I tried to call again, but nothing. No signal anyway. I checked my pockets. I had like $12, a lighter, my phone, the hatchet, the dumb granola bar. I walked back up the trail, thinking maybe they were just around the bend, but the parking lot was empty. There was this weird feeling, like I wasn't even mad yet, just confused. I sat there for a while, hoping they'd come back, but nothing. So I tried to get back to the campsite, but honestly, I got turned around. The trees all looked the same. I'm not a scout, I don't hike. The sun started going down, and I got cold, so I just found a spot and tried to sleep. Every little noise freaked me out, but I was more annoyed than scared at this point. Like, really? This is what they think is going to fix me? Next day, I tried following the trail markers, but they just looped back. I ate the granola bar slowly, but it was gone by the second day. I yelled for help a few times, but no one was around. I drank from a stream. Probably not smart, but I was desperate. I tried not to sleep much because I kept hearing things. After a few days, I was hungry, tired, and pissed off. I kept thinking about what Frank said, how his dad did this to him. I kept thinking he always talked about tough love, but this felt more like he just wanted to get rid of me for a while. Eventually, I saw some hikers, and they stared at me like I was a wild animal. One of them gave me water, asked if I was okay. I told them my family left me, and they just looked at each other like, is this kid serious? They walked me back to the trailhead, and I just sat there while they tried to call someone. I gave them my parents' number, but no answer. I ended up with some park rangers, and they called my aunt, Amy. She picked me up, barely said anything, just drove me to her house, made me a sandwich, and told me to sleep on the couch. The next day, she said my parents were taking some time, and maybe it was best if I stayed with her for a while. I asked if they'd even called. She shrugged, said they needed space, and I should think about what I did to push them that far, which honestly made me angrier than anything. I tried calling again. Nothing. After a week at her place, I just stopped trying. I didn't see or hear from them again for 6 years. I moved out at 18, started my own life, blocked them everywhere. Every so often, I'd get a message from Sarah on that photo app, just a funny picture or something, but nothing real. I figured I was done with it. I figured if they didn't want me, I didn't need them. Then last month, my mom, Mary, shows up at my work, just walks in looking older, tired, and starts crying. I literally hadn't seen her face in 6 years. Didn't even recognize her at first. That's how part 1 ends, I guess. If you want to know what happened when she showed up, I'll post more. But yeah, that's how my family left me in the woods. Not even an apology, not even a call, just gone. Update 1. Alright, so here's part 2. Like I said, if you read part 1, you know my mom, Mary, just showed up at my job out of nowhere after 6 years. Honestly, it was so random I thought I was seeing things. It's not even like I live in the same town. I moved way out after high school, blocked everyone, changed numbers, the whole deal. So her finding me? That wasn't an accident. She had to ask around. She looked rough, like she hadn't slept. And she was just standing there at the front, like she didn't even know what to say. So I walk up, and before I can even open my mouth, she starts crying. Not even nice crying, just ugly, snotty, can't catch her breath crying. She grabs my arm, and I pull back. Just instinct. I don't want her touching me. People are staring. I tell her to step outside, and she follows, still crying. And I gotta admit, that made me mad. Like, seriously? After all this time, you show up and just expect me to be okay with it? Nah. Outside, she tries to talk, keeps wiping her face with her sleeve and saying she's sorry, that she's been trying to find me, that she misses me. All this stuff. I just stand there. I tell her to get to the point, because I gotta get back in there. And she kind of flinches. She starts rambling about how everything went wrong after I left. How Sarah barely talks to her. How Frank, my dad, isn't the same. And how she just wants to see me, know I'm okay. All that. She says she's sorry. Says she never wanted it to go like that. It was never supposed to be that bad. Frank just wanted to teach me a lesson. He thought I'd toughen up, that I'd come back after a few hours and prove I could handle myself. I cut her off, told her I wasn't interested in her excuses. She tries to grab my arm again, and I push her back. Not hard, but enough. And she kind of stumbles. She looks at me like I slapped her. She tries to say she didn't have a choice, that Frank wouldn't listen, that she wanted to come back for me, but he wouldn't let her. I asked her why she didn't call the cops then, or at least my Aunt Amy, or literally anyone. She gets real quiet, just looking down at the sidewalk, and says she was scared of him. That made me angrier than anything, because she always acted like she was on my side growing up. But whenever Frank got like that, she'd just go along with it. Always. I say, you let him leave me there. You never called. You never even tried. She starts up the waterworks again, goes on about how she was so young and didn't know what to do. I just stand there with my arms crossed. I don't care. People are walking by, some giving us looks, but whatever. She starts talking about how everything went wrong right after. How Frank got meaner and meaner. How Sarah started sneaking out. How the family just fell apart. She says she lost her job. They moved into a smaller place. Frank started drinking more, got in fights with neighbors, all that. She says she tried to reach out to me, but my Aunt Amy wouldn't give her my info. I know that's a lie. Amy barely talked to me after I left, just sent the occasional message online. So I call her out on it. She shrugs, says maybe she misremembers. I ask her what she wants from me. Straight up. She says she just wants to know I'm okay. Wants to talk. Maybe get coffee. Try to reconnect. I laughed. Couldn't help it. I ask her if she thinks she deserves that after what she did. She starts crying again. Says she knows she doesn't, but she wants to try. I ask her why Frank hates me so much, why he did that. She says he always thought I was weak, that I didn't have what it takes, that he worried I'd turn out soft and end up like one of those loser kids. She says Frank's dad did that stuff to him too, like leaving him places, making him find his own way home, all that. Says Frank always talked about how boys these days don't know real struggle. I say, that's not an excuse. That's just being a jerk. She says she knows. She wishes she'd done something different, but she didn't know how. I tell her I don't care. I'm not interested in a family reunion. I don't need her. I made it without any of that. She tries to say she's proud of me for surviving, that she thinks about me every day, all that. I tell her that's not my problem. She tries to grab my hand, and I pull away, and she starts crying louder. A security guy comes over and asks if everything's okay. And I say, yeah, we're done here, and walk back inside. She waits outside for like an hour, sends me a bunch of texts, all long paragraphs saying stuff like, please talk to me. I'm begging you. I need you in my life. All that. I block her number. Next day, I get a message from Sarah. Just says, Mom's a mess. What did you say to her? I don't answer. Then my phone starts blowing up, but not from her. It's people I haven't talked to in years. Old friends, a couple of cousins, even my ex, all saying, hey, your mom called me. She's looking for you. What's going on? Is everything okay? She's literally reaching out to everyone she can find. Even my boss gets an email asking him to please tell me to call my mom. I'm so pissed at this point I could break something. I text her from a burner account and tell her if she doesn't stop, I'll file a harassment complaint. She says she just wants to talk. Says she has something important to tell me, but won't say what. I tell her to leave me alone, or I'll go no contact with everyone in the family forever. She says fine, but she hopes I'll change my mind. I'm not planning to. I'm just getting started. The next part gets wild though. Like, I started looking into what my parents were up to. And let's just say karma is real if you know where to push. I'll post part 3 if people care. But yeah, that's how that went down. Update 2. Alright, so here's part 3. And honestly, if you're still reading after all that, you're probably wondering why I didn't just block my mom and move on. I kind of tried, for real. But after she started calling random people about me and basically trying to guilt trip everyone into making me talk to her, I got pissed. Like, I just wanted to disappear. I made my own life, kept my head down, didn't want anything to do with them. And she starts trying to drag me back in? Nah, not happening. So I start thinking, if she's going to pull this, I'm not just going to sit around. I'll make them regret ever treating me like that. I know it sounds harsh, whatever, but if you lived it, you'd get it. First thing I did was go digging. I'm not some hacker, but you can find a lot if you just know where to look. Started with that photo app, found Sarah's account. She posts everything, still does those ask me anything things like it's years ago. Then checked out my dad, Frank's, page. Noticed his posts went from bragging about vacations and his new truck to sharing those angry old guy memes about how kids today don't want to work and back in my day stuff. Not surprised. But then I see he's tagged in a bunch of local business pages, some reviews, a couple of random arguments in the comments. I look up his name online, and yeah, he's got a small business. It's nothing huge, but it's his thing. Always said he was his own boss. So I start watching. Takes a few weeks, but I pick up on some stuff. People in the comments arguing with him, complaining about how he does business, stuff like that. I see a couple of reviews where someone says he's unprofessional, talks down to people. I know that's not just online. It's how he always was. I find his business's page and see he's got a few regulars, but not a ton. The business isn't doing great. I look up the address. It's a strip mall on the edge of town. I know how those places work. Rent isn't cheap. I don't go there. I'm not stupid. But I do start messaging some of the people who left reviews. Just regular stuff at first, like asking how their experience was, if they'd use the place again, stuff like that. Most people ignore me, but a couple answer. One says Frank was rude, wouldn't honor a guarantee, said it was their fault for being careless. Another tells me he tried to push extra stuff on her that she didn't need. I don't give them my real name, just say I'm thinking of using his business. Nobody is surprised when I say I got a weird vibe. I start pushing. I leave some honest reviews. Nothing crazy, just the truth. Say, I had a bad experience. Staff was rude. Wouldn't recommend. I post in a local online group and ask if anyone else had trouble. People start chiming in. I don't make anything up, I just nudge the story along. I dropped a hint about how the owner once left his own kid stranded in the woods. And that gets people going. I don't even say it was me, just someone I know. Some people say I'm lying, but others start asking questions. The best part is Frank can't help himself. He jumps into the comments, gets all defensive, starts yelling at people online. One night, he gets in a full-on fight with some guy in the group and then posts a rant about cancel culture and entitled kids. People start avoiding his business. I get a message from a dude who says he used to work for Frank, and he quit because Frank screamed at him for being 5 minutes late. I tell him, yeah, that tracks. While that's going down, I check on my mom, Mary. She's living with her sister, Amy, now, which makes sense. She always ran to her when things got bad. Amy's got her own problems, not a lot of money, takes care of her own kids. I hear from Sarah. She sends me a funny picture. Whatever, that mom is super depressed and barely leaves the house. I ignore it. Not my problem. Mom starts sending me emails from new accounts, begging me to stop, saying Frank is blaming her for everything, that he's losing money, that she's scared he's going to snap. I don't answer. I start telling people the real story, not just the business stuff, but what he did to me. I tell my side to anyone who asks. I don't care if they believe me or not. I just keep talking. I know some people think I'm making it up, but I don't care. I send Frank a letter. Just a plain old letter. Nothing fancy. I write out step by step what he did, what it did to me, how I survived, how I built a life without him, and how I'll never let him forget it. I tell him I'm making sure everyone knows who he really is. No threats, nothing illegal, just the truth. I know he gets it because a week later, I get a text from an unknown number. Just says, "You're a liar and a coward. You'll never be a real man." I block it. I start hearing from more family. Some cousins, some people I barely remember. Some of them are mad, say I'm ruining the family name, say I should just let it go. I tell them if they want to fight, let's fight. I don't back down. One uncle actually calls me, yelling about how I'm stirring up drama and that I should respect my elders. I hang up on him. Amy tries to take my side for like 2 minutes, but then says she can't get involved because she needs mom's help with rent. Meanwhile, Frank's business keeps getting worse. I keep watching. Someone posts in the local group that they saw him yelling at a customer. Says the cops came, but nothing happened, just a warning, I guess. He slammed the door on someone, and they threatened to sue, but nothing came of it. Even Sarah texts me, says dad's losing it, keeps blaming everyone else. I tell her, maybe you should move out. She just says, yeah, maybe. I know some people are going to say I went too far, but honestly, if you knew what it felt like to get left in the woods by your own family, you might get it. I'm not out here breaking any laws, just telling the truth. Just making sure everyone knows what kind of people they are. If they want to play games, I can play too. Last thing that happened is I got a message from some old dude who used to know Frank back when he was younger. He says, I heard what happened. And that's the same way Frank's dad treated him. I say, doesn't make it right. He says, no, it doesn't. Then he tells me to take care of myself. I don't reply. So yeah, that's where it's at. Frank is losing business. Mom's basically a ghost. Family split down the middle. I'm not done yet, but it's a start. I don't care if they hate me for it. I'm not just going to let them get away with it. I don't know if that makes me the bad guy, but whatever. Next part's when things actually hit the wall. Dad finally tries to reach out after all this. And you won't believe how that goes. I'll post it if people want to hear the rest. Finally, update. So here's part 4. And honestly, if you've kept up, thanks. I didn't expect this to get this much attention. Not going to lie, writing all this out is weird as hell, but whatever. People wanted the end. So here's how it went down. It's been about 2 months since I started really pushing back. Like, not just blocking my mom, but straight up making sure people knew what kind of people Frank and Mary were. I figured it would just make them mad. Maybe they'd move or just stop trying. But nah, Frank is the type who can't leave anything alone. Can't let anyone else win. That's probably what his dad did to him too. But like, I don't care. I'm not his therapist.